Eric Bam said a couple months ago that having Ware playing alongside him, he thought helped him offensively from an energy and other standpoint. I know there are going to be growing pains with any young player, but did you see enough body of work from the two of them playing together, Bam and Kel'el, that you think that is your starting power rotation for the future, barring some unexpected trade for an all-star?
Well, I was encouraged with the minutes that they had and the progress that they made, and you know they found a way to complement each other and heighten each other's strengths. And this will be obviously a really important summer for Kel'el. This last 6-8 weeks was really important for him. Just the heightened pressure and expectations of us driving to get into the playoffs and the 2 play-in games, and then all the learning lessons, from these 4 games. I went back and looked at it yesterday. There's just not a lot of guys from this draft class, that played in the playoffs. And him and Pelle got that experience and got it in a hard way. These are tough lessons, as they usually are in a playoff setting. If you're not advancing, it's usually a tough lesson. And I'm grateful that Kel'el was able to get all of these experiences and set up for a really important summer.
Well, it was 3 straight years now with the bottom 10 offense. How would you kind of evaluate the end of the court this season, and what better, and how much?
Yes, in our minds, once we were able to get some consistency, with not only the roster, the rotation, but our style of play, we definitely were making progress those last several weeks of the season. You could see a lot of that progress. You did not see it the last 2 games. But Cleveland was a very good team, and when one of their starters went out, they went to a different lineup, and that lineup proved to be very troublesome, for us. And we'll build on some of these principles, and I think that the guys understanding their roles, definitely helped. And we'll work at it as a staff again, this summer, to come up with a plan that we think is best to start the season, but something that can also evolve and grow.
The defense has been changing kind of for a couple of years now as far as scheme and kind of lineups you're using. Still finished ranking-wise where you would generally expect it to, more or less, but do you feel like the defense is in a good spot, or are there gains that need to be made on that?
Yeah, there'll definitely have to be some gains, but I think that was trending in a better direction as well the last few weeks. And that's this league right now. You better have different ways of defending, and you have to evolve. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind. But I think our better version, when we got to it, I think was disruptive to what teams were trying to do. If they were trying to get to whatever their game was, I think we were finding some success, bringing a physicality, to our defense, being disruptive, protecting the paint, protecting the rim. When it was our best version, that obviously is every team, but we were much more consistent with that the last 6 weeks.
Coach, it was an inconsistent year for Jaime coming off of that first season. What do you think caused that, and what do you think is going to be worked on further?
Well, he'll work on everything, and he had a really good summer last summer, and then he sprained his ankle right before training camp. And then these are not excuses, but it led to some of the just inconsistency of his play or his role. The first time I thought he was started to play well after the Mexico City game, and then that led to 3 of his stomach, actually 4 of his stomach issues, and sometimes you just can't control that. But that was 3 or 4 instances where he was taken out of the lineup, and then 3 sprained ankles. So every time he started to get rhythm, one of those events would happen, and then there's a ramp up coming back. The team would change, and we already had 4 or 5 different changes within the team anyway. And then his role would have to change, and that's a lot for a young player. What you want more than anything as a young player is consistency and clarity. What's my role? What's expected of me? And that changed to a lot of those events. But clearly, he has to work on some things, which he will. He'll work on defending in open space, defending situationally in our system. Outside shooting will be key again, but he was working on that last summer. I think a full summer again, I think you'll see big progress. He was coming out of training camp shooting the ball great. So I think we can fast track that. And then ultimately the hardest one is decision making. The schemes have changed against him, and he has to be aggressive. But now there's going to be different schemes, and you graduate, to different levels to this. And when there's a second defender, making the right read and finding open guys, when he's in a crowd.
After a season like this, sometimes people might reassess, especially after such a long time. Where do you stand as coach as far as your energy and vigor going forward? And how would you rate your season as your performance?
I'm not going to rate it. Again, we'd have to, evaluate 4 or 5 different segments of the season. What I told the team, and this is not any kind of moral message or victory. It's just what you want is out of a season is to be able to come together for whatever reason and improve and do something. We were all faced with a very uncomfortable segment of the season. There were some other segments of the season where it was what it was, but during the losing streak where we were playing great, we were making progress and losing games. I said it so often that you want to get a team that felt like it's worthy to win, and we were definitely feeling like we were worthy to win, and we were still losing. And it could have gotten a lot worse, but I think that's when we made our most improvement. It was during that 10 games losing streak. And then we ended up playing our best basketball after that. And then we put ourselves out there. When you put yourselves out there as competitors, you're going to put yourself out there for everything. And we deserve it. We deserve the criticism. We deserve the embarrassment. Those last 2 games, it's not, what our organization's about, but we put ourselves out there to fight in the play-in, 2 road play-in games to earn our right to go to the playoffs. And those 2 games were something. It was we felt like it was going to lead to a lot more, and that was irrational on our part. If we handled different parts of the season better, and that's what I'm going to analyze, even amidst all the adversity and the change and some of the things that were extreme. If we handled some of those better, then I think we would have been out of the plan and a little bit in the middle of the pack, and that's what everything remains to be seen. Nobody has an answer for that right now. There's 2 teams that are playing ahead of others, but we'll find out, if the other teams will or not. At the end of the day, there's going to be 7 other teams, in 6 days that'll all be joining us, right where we are and trying to figure it out. Nobody really has the model. But again, we have huge, massive expectations in this building, so we'll take it. We'll take it. And we'll get to work. I'm extremely motivated, for the offseason once we get away and all that stuff to try to get our organization and basketball team to a higher level. The play-in obviously is not, where we want to be, but there's great parity. There's great competition. And there's a lot of teams that are pretty similar to us trying to figure it out, that are not at that top tier level. And that's what we'll spend the offseason, working on.
You also spoke about adversities unique to this team had to handle. You had a player who effectively quit on this team, sat up there an hour after you spoke in January about that, who missed a team flight, who left the gym when told he wasn't starting. Unique situation probably in this franchise's 37-year history. When you look at the relationship with Jimmy Butler and what he did over a period of 6 weeks to force a trade that Pat Riley said he wouldn't have made, can you sort of crystallize for us the impact that that had on this team?
Well, it certainly had an impact. We are an organization that prides ourselves on not making any kind of excuses, and even if we managed it perfectly, there's always second guessing on what we could have done, better just to right the ship. And it was turbulent waters. It's not as if that would have moved the needle for us to be first in the conference. That's unrealistic. But when I look back on it, I'll look back on it the same way now as years from now. It was a good 5-year run. And when things end, oftentimes they end not as loudly as this, but it ends where there's something. And you go look at all the other teams out there with players when they change teams. There's a certain feeling about it. And it's unfortunate. We all feel like it didn't have to go to that level. But we have clarity now. We've turned the page. There's a different chapter, and we're moving on.
Erik, along those lines, how did you handle all the things that you can't control, all the frustration of the suspensions, of the trade? Andrew comes here, he gets hurt. Like you said, Jaime kept getting sick, kept turning ankles. Nico broke his hand. All that stuff, it happens every year, but it just seemed like anytime there was any glimmer of something going the right way, it was 2 steps back. How did you process that yourself?
Yeah, I think it was, when I say it's a memorable season, the memories will be like these the last 4 weeks. The rest of the season, was a grind, but we finally started to turn the corner even during the losing streak, and you felt momentum, you felt progress, you felt like a group was coming together, and it led to 2 planned games. So that was really it. But all the other adversities, it made me better. I've never been in a situation like that, and to try to keep a locker room together, and to try to handle it during those weeks, but then also to fully change course and stylistically and how to play and what to emphasize, at the All-Star break. And that was an invigorating challenge. Our staff, we felt absolutely alive by the challenge, and inspired by a group that, wanted to figure this out. All these experiences, hopefully it can make you better as a head coach and leader, especially the unexpected ones, because even in a normal NBA season, it's not normal. There's always going to be some things, and it's just another experience that I can put it in the experience bag, and I hope I'm better, for it. In a lot of different ways, from a leadership standpoint, emotional standpoint, communication standpoint, getting people to rally around something standpoint, and even X's and O's. We did quite a few big shifts this year, and we'll probably have to do that, moving forward too. That's the way this league works.
Last 2 questions.
Given everything that we're talking about here, it puts a lot on Bam's plate too, as sort of the team captain. How did you see him respond throughout the course of all the things that we're talking about throughout the season? And how could you sum up maybe the challenges that he was faced with and how he responded to that?
Yeah, I loved seeing, his leadership feet be put to the fire, and that's what it was. He's accepted the captainship for sure, but it's one thing to do that, when things are going well and you're playing well. At the beginning of the year, we weren't playing well. He wasn't playing, his best basketball, and yet he was still rolling up his sleeves and leading. I thought that was a big step, for him. There's a lot of guys in this league that wouldn't do that. They would look to blame or, point fingers and all that. And then, You know, he did the same thing when everybody was looking for somebody in the locker room in March. You know, that's when he was his strongest, and I think that's when he was playing his best as well. And that speaks to his character. And we'll need a whole lot more of it, you know, going forward. I think, you know, I learned a lot going through this experience. Bam learned a lot, and I think he's going to be better, you know, for it. Leadership is influence, and you know, when you have a respect of the locker room because you're doing a lot of the right things, but then you're consistent, you know, every day, I think they're more likely, you know, to follow your lead.
Coach, you mentioned throughout the season Nico's, you know, his peaks and valleys. He had stretches where he played well, then of course ended the season with a broken hand and such. How would you describe like his progression and like the pros and cons of like, what you saw in his third year in the league?
Yeah, his last 14 months have been really important as well. You know, even going back to last year's playoff series, having that experience, a summer of work, and then all of this, starting out as a starter, and then being out of the rotation, having to fight for it again, all the little things, you know, and then earning back basically sixth or seventh man role and thriving in that role before he got hurt. You know, he's made significant progress, and I do have to remind myself, the staff reminds me all the time, there's just not a lot of guys other than OKC playing, a lot of young guys in the playoffs. There's not a lot, you know, that are playing 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds, and you know, Pelle's 23, you know, Tyler's 25, in a big role. Jaime, you know, going through everything he went through is, you know, 23, and Kel'el literally just turned 21 during this series. But, you know, a lot of times when you're trying to win in the playoffs, you need those guys, you know, to be their 27, 28-year-old version. And we'll fast track that as much as we possibly can. But the best way to fast track it, unfortunately, is experience, and really unfortunately is usually the painful experiences. And that's not to put anything on the young guys. This is all collective, you know, with us. But the part of, you know, the experiences being painful, well, our organization, you know, has gone through it. Yes, we've been to the playoffs 6 straight years, but we have higher aspirations. We're embarrassed about those last 2 games. A lot of things can be true as well. When I look around, okay, again, I ask, who's got the model? Boston does right now because they won last year. Everybody else, I'm looking at the teams that are maybe still playing. 2 years ago, they're out of the playoffs, and they haven't won yet. So how are they the model right now? You know, we're stubborn as hell. We're going to try to. You got to compete for a title. You got to make the playoffs first. You got to keep on getting cracks at it, and that's what we're going to keep on doing. We're going to put our head down, you know, and keep on working and until we get the result that we expect and that our city expects, and that's the biggest motivating, you know, factor right now. All right, appreciate everybody. You know, through the whole year. That's kind of what I felt like, Ira, but I do appreciate all of you and your professionalism. All right, see you soon.
Davion's up. We're going to try to keep everyone 5 minutes or less just because we don't want to start losing players.
Davion, how would you assess the way that you fit in here after the trade, after coming here just a couple of months ago, and sort of what do you envision going forward?
I mean, I don't know what the future holds. I'm not going to try to get into that, but I mean, I had an amazing time here. I love my teammates, love the coaching staff, love the adversity that we went through, and we accomplished something no one's ever done before, being a Tipsy, getting into the playoffs. But just going through that, I mean, I feel like the easy route, we could have said, man, we're done after the 10-game losing streak. We're not going to make the playoffs. There's no way. We're having a bad season. We'll try again next season. Now we kept fighting, and we accomplished something no one's ever done. So I'm proud of my teammates and proud of the whole Heat organization.
Even I know it was a short stretch, but you put together one of the best, if not the best, stretch of your careers after being traded here. Was it a matter of just the opportunity, or did they kind of use you maybe a little differently than you've been used in the past?
I think it's both. I think Coach Bo told me the first day is to be yourself. I want you to be yourself. Go out there, defensively, offensively, play your game. You know how to play the game. Get your teammates involved. Things that I've been doing since I've been playing basketball. And I had the opportunity to do it here. The past places I've been to, I didn't really have the opportunity. We had a lot of good players. I was playing with a lot of good players, so I understood it. But being here, I kind of just fit right in. They needed someone who can be a defensive presence, who can get their teammates open, make my teammates' life just a lot easier, and I think that's what I did.
Davion, specific to that offensively, how much more do you think you can add to your game there? Like, what are the levels maybe that we haven't seen at this stage that now you've had that opportunity you can work on this summer?
I think that it's a great question. Just me being more and more consistent. Just every game, I feel like I was consistent. The stretch of after All-Star break, I feel like I was even consistent last year after All-Star break, but just kind of putting the whole season, putting it together, just to be consistent and not just after the All-Star break when you get a little break, kind of figure out to be consistent throughout the whole season. That's my goal.
Davion, you even spoke to us about this. It's a business. You're in a situation, not only situated as a potential restricted free agent, but coming off arguably the best stretch of your career. What's next for you? What are you seeking as you go into free agency?
I haven't really thought about it or talked about it with my representation. I think that there's a long summer that we're gonna have a lot of talks about it, and when we do, I'll be prepared for that. But as of right now, I don't really know because I've never been in a situation before. So I'm just waiting for just talking to my agency.
Speaking specifically to your shooting, 44, 45% from three since you've been here. Sometimes you can get hot, but do you feel like something was really clicking with your jumper in these last couple months that were different from the rest of your career?
I think that basketball is it comes with a rhythm. I think playing for Miami, I had a lot of rhythm. I had the ball in my hands, not just shooting the ball, but be able to make plays, to be able to turn people over, get defensive stop, and that comes with the rhythm. And people don't understand that. Like people that don't really know the game, don't really understand it's a rhythm thing, and it's hard to just come off the bench. Like that's why I have so much praise for the guys who are just shooters, who like guys like Duncan Robinson who can just come off the bench and just knock down 8 threes, right? That's super hard to do. Like I promise you I couldn't do it, right? It's like just like I have no rhythm. There's no rhythm to the game, but for you to do that, it's like that's a special thing, right? You come off the bench or haven't shot the ball the whole game and you get a corner three and you knock it down, right? That's special. And I think the places that I've been, like my whole career, I've never been a person who could just sit in the corner and just make a three. I couldn't make a corner three, obviously, but I think just like throughout the whole game, not touching the ball, just running up the court and just making a corner three, I'm not that good at that. So I just think I had a rhythm, and when it comes to rhythm, I shoot better.
To go off of what you were saying, rhythm, your first couple of years in Sacramento, it was kind of like up and down in terms of minutes. Mm-hmm. How liberating or even a feeling of vindication did you have coming here and having this run where you kind of were yourself?
Can you ask that again? I'm sorry.
Basically, how does it feel, I guess, mentally to be able to play your game after spending the first couple of years to being kind of, in an up and down state where you never really got a consistent role with Sacramento?
I was blessed to have that opportunity to be in Sacramento, to play with different people, to play in a different role, because I feel like I can play different roles, right? I feel like even with Sacramento, it wasn't like here where this is the best role, but I still play an important role that taught me a lot about myself. Playing with a guy like Sabonis who can pass the ball really well, who now playing a lot of playing off a lot of handoffs. I had to learn how to do that. So working on my game to learn how to play off handoffs, I just adding things to my game. And then when I got here, I was always played like this before. Even in college, it was kind of like the same thing where I got the ball in my hands, get to make plays, but also playing with great players, right? So I learned to play different ways. And, I mean, if it wasn't for Sacramento, I wouldn't even know how to play that way, right? So, I mean, just blessed to have those opportunities to play with different people and different talents.
David, when you got here, I know you said that sometimes as a defensive guy, you get that tag that maybe you're not an offensive player to that caliber. Do you feel like you saw maybe a difference in the way defense started treating you toward, later in the season, playoffs, where maybe you're getting that respect offensively?
Yeah, I kind of seen it more and more through the playoffs, even kind of during the end of the regular season. As much as I was getting the paint, you kind of can see that team strategy, especially the playoffs, the team strategies of stopping me from getting in the paint a little bit. I mean, because that's where I felt like I was at my best, making plays, getting to the basket, things like that. Just getting in the paint, making plays, and Cleveland did a really good job with that. They used Jared Allen to do it, right, and it's kind of made me pass the ball out and kind of we had to shoot a lot of threes. And that's not what our game was at the time. I feel like we're a really good team who can make shots in the paint. I think we was like the #1 field goal percentage in the playoffs, right? So we got to figure out how to generate more threes and cleaner threes and things like that. But I'm okay with what we did this season. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Well, obviously, rookie season in the books for you. Can you just kind of give a general just reactions to how your first season went and just your feelings on it?
I feel like I got better. Of course, when I wasn't playing at first, I was in the gym, every day, working out every day, and when my time came, it came. So, yeah.
Well, you had that run in February and then didn't get to Rising Stars game, but then Rookie of the Year voting comes out and you were one of the guys who got votes, which probably indicates that you'll end up on one of the all-rookie teams. Just what does something like that mean to you, knowing that you'll have that, in your hat going forward?
I don't really have any feelings towards that. I never really, cared that much about, achievements or, things like that. I just like to hoop, so.
Well, you obviously played the last 3-4 months of the season with Bam starting. Do you think you guys proved that you guys can be a sustainable combo moving forward? And what do you feel like you guys need to improve on as a duo in the front court entering next season?
I feel like that just comes, more reps, playing with each other out there on the court, filling each other out more, knowing where, each other need to be, making sure, we stay spaced and, just like I said, just keep getting reps at that, learning. For me, learning, his spots and him, learning my spots. So.
You obviously had a lot of good stuff to build on. I know when players are asked where you want to improve, people generally would say everything, more consistency. But if you could point to one area that you want to really focus on in the gym this summer, one specific skill, what comes to your mind?
I'm gonna still say, getting stronger. Yeah, I'm gonna say that. It was getting stronger. Before the season started, it's still getting stronger. Until I get to that point, then it's gonna continue to be getting stronger. So.
You and Coach Spo have talked a lot about how you've been coached hard this rookie year. Did you think when you started that you'd be starting in playoff games, and what specifically got you to, what changed from going out of the lineup to the point where you were starting?
I feel like that's more of a question for Spo. I don't really feel like anything, changed more for me. It was just, I guess Spo getting that confidence in me, just trusting me to be able to, put me out there. So.
Spo often made comments this year about how you were being fed through a fire hose, and there's so many things that a rookie has to adjust to. Kind of looking back, what is the toughest part as a rookie adjusting to the NBA game?
I would say definitely the strength part of it. That was really the main thing for me. That's one going to be the main things I'm going to continue to work on. During the off season to get better at it, get stronger. So I would say that definitely that.
So I think we asked you this 2 or 3 times during the series, but now that you've had a few days since the end, what did you take away from your first playoff experience, and I guess what was the biggest challenge in that series for you?
Just learning, how the game was played. It's different from, the regular in season. Even, the play-in games is different. So I say it's definitely, just now I got the experience of that. So, just knowing what it is and, how I need to, I guess, be next time.
What experiences throughout the season, whether it was like going up against certain opponents, certain teams, or like playing alongside Bam once you got more into the rotation, what on-court experiences did you have, do you think, like were tangible enough to push you forward in your development?
Basically just having the confidence to go out there and do it. I would say, because I know I can do it. It's just, just going out there having the confidence, and just knowing that, Spo has that trust in me to, trust me to go out there and do it. So,
What moment in the season would you say was, I guess, maybe the coolest or most surreal moment where you kind of just took a second and maybe it was like you're in the NBA and just like maybe it was kind of like, I don't know, took it in?
I would probably say the West Coast trip that we went on. I would say that one. Just playing with when we played the Clippers and we played the Lakers and just being around those guys. I watched some of AD, so I feel like that was one of the main parts of it. So like, okay, I'm here now. So.
Well, appreciate it. Thanks, bro. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Haywood, we've been talking for a couple of years now about your role. You're starting rotation. Sometimes you haven't played. There's been a lot. Do you feel like you've settled in this season to, or just made peace with it's going to be something different all the time, and you just got to be who you are?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've always said, whether I come off the bench or start, or it doesn't matter to me. I just want to impact winning, and, do what I do. And just, just be there for my teammates and just do whatever I got to do to just, like I said, impact winning. If that's starting, come off the bench, whatever. Obviously, I want to play, so, yeah, doesn't matter which one, either one.
Hey, we're kind of now just a couple of days removed from the playoff series. Obviously, multiple guys have said it was humbling, and just that kind of experience, especially those back-to-back games. Just from your point of view, just, again, losing by 37 game 3 and then 55 in game 4, what was sort of the emotions kind of going through your head?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. This league is, like you said, it's humbling. The Cavs are a good team. We felt like we, could make it competitive and, just do, we feel like we can make it competitive and try to make it a series, but they came up on top. The first 2 games in Cleveland, obviously we were kind of right there, so we felt encouraged coming back home. But they just, when they got hit at the two last games, it was tough. They got the big leads, everything kind of crumbled. But it just shows you that they're kind of on a different level than us. If you're losing by that much at home in 2 games in a row, it's not much to say after that.
Haywood, you've been around one of the veterans of the team. This was probably the oddest 6 weeks, maybe, that you had to deal with from the Jimmy situation, from the suspensions, not being here, the trade and all that. Can you take us just inside the locker room? What was it like enduring that, not knowing from day to day amid the 3 suspensions for Jimmy what was going to come next. What did that do to the locker room?
You know, for me personally, I try to let the front office handle that and just focus on myself, to be honest with you, and focus on the team. You know, we're going to let them handle that, and we're just going to continue to focus on winning basketball games. I think for the team, we just rally around each other, whether he would be there or he wouldn't be there, and just focus on that. You know, we didn't have nothing against him. You know, I mean, he didn't want to be here. He didn't want to be here. It is what it is. You know, so glad he got what he wanted, and wish him the best. But we didn't really focus too much on that. You know, obviously it was kind of weird at first, but you know, we was focused on basketball. To be honest with you.
You missed the window, man.
Alec, Coach Spo often complimented your ability to come off the bench and just be ready for whenever it is that he needed you. And you often spoke about just being a vet and staying ready. Like, how did it feel to bring that to the team, just given everything that it experienced this season?
I was just trying to be a steady presence, be a good vet. You know, when my time was called, try to be try to make most of our opportunities and show the young guys like you can play this role, you know, and be professional about it. You know.
Your first year here, what, looking back on the whole season, what sets your experience with this franchise specifically apart from any other franchise?
Man, I had a great year. I had a great time. Everybody from the top to the bottom, man. I got love for everybody here, and it was a good year. I learned a lot. Even though I'm in my 14th year, I still learned something. So I'm glad I was here. Hopefully, I can come back.
Alec, you talked about just trying to be a good vet. You've been around good vets, and you've been some places. Obviously, what is the trick to that? Like, how does one figure out that part of it all?
From what I've learned when I was young, nobody's more important than the team, and the game is a revolving door. I've learned that, like, you show the game to a young guy, the young guy's gonna show a game to another young guy when he gets your age. So you just want to be a good person, never hate on nobody, because somebody turn every different, you know. So it's always somebody gonna be opportunity. You just want to show the young guys, like, take advantage of everything this game can give you. That's what I try to show.
I know you've been doing this for a while, but how do you stay in a rhythm or maybe be able to come in and shoot without being in a rhythm, either coming off the bench or starting in a game? How are you able to do that, not just, you know, now, but for the entirety of your career, it seems?
I have unbelievable confidence in my ability. I think that's what it is. Maybe irrational confidence in my ability and my basketball abilities. I think that's what it is. And the work I put into it. Those two things, that's what makes me ready at any time.
Alec, being through all the ups and downs that you guys went through this season, what did you see in the locker room specifically of how the team came together, and what did you guys learn during that time?
I learned Spo can manage anything, coach through anything. We had a lot of things going on, and I feel like he did a great job, like, bringing the locker room together. Him and Bam, I think Coach calls Bam the emotional leader, and Bam showed that to me this year. I mean, it's my only year here. He did a lot for the team that showed, you know.
You said irrational confidence. Like, people around here used to laugh. Like, in the Big Three era, Mario Chalmers thought he was the best player in the world, and then at times he went out and played like it is. Do you have to have, if you're going to survive in the NBA, unless you're like LeBron or Giannis, do you have to have irrational confidence? Like, is it just a requirement for everybody at this point, kind of?
I think so, because, you know, what is it? 1%, 540, 450 of us. So, I mean, you have to feel like you're the best. It's only that many of us. So that works for me. I don't know if it works for everybody, but I guess it could. You know?
All right, Alec, thank you very much.
guys.
Kyle, you coached played under a lot of different coaches, Pop, Chris Finch, Steve Kerr, of course. In your short time with the Heat, what would you say like you described? How would you describe rather your experience learning under Coach Poe?
Very detailed, which I can appreciate as an 11-year pro and being 31 years old. I came into the league playing for Coach Pop, and that was super detailed on the same level as Coach Spo is. And I think sometimes it would just go over my head, being, 21, 22, 23 years old. It was just a lot for me at times. So now as I'm older, and I think, I've took my scars from, playing with San Antonio and finally coming around to learning how to operate like that. Now, once I get here to Miami, it's I'm kind of good at it now, and I kind of understand Coach Spo and how he wants things done, and the attention to detail. So that's something that I picked up being here.
I was good. Didn't get a chance to ask you after the game the other night, but by and large, everybody has said, including Spo, after Game 2 in Cleveland, you guys were relatively encouraged. The late run, the defense was coming along. What do you think flipped? What did Cleveland kind of flip in the 2 home games?
If you want my honest answer, and I don't mean to throw shots at anybody and or even entertain what was going on between them, but I think they looked like a better team without Garland on the floor. Now, I don't know the numbers or anything, but I think it played more into their favor once Garland wasn't on the floor for them. They were able to dictate the tempo and get more stops on defense, and it was hard for us to score. And they had more guys out there on defense. So I think once we came across that, it got kind of tough for us. Maybe every series is different. I'm not saying they're better without Garland. He's obviously a really good player. I respect his game, but I think that was tough on us. Once Garland wasn't on the floor, offensively it got rough for us.
Kyle, when speaking with Spo, obviously when you entered the team, it was a very tumultuous time for them. And really, Bam has been that kind of emotional leader to kind of get the team through it. Can you just kind of tell your experience? I know it's not a whole season, but just your experience with Bam.
Bam was awesome. Bam and Tyler, they like the leaders of this team. They bring their hard hat to work every day. They're great teammates. They really care about you. I'm not just saying that because it's cliche and because I'm supposed to. Like, those guys are really fun to be around. They really care about everybody, and they know that they have the team on their back, and how they approach that, how him and Tyler approach that every day is really cool to see, because those guys get it early in their career, and the whole team, you couldn't even tell when I got here that we were going through tough times. Like, for everyone to welcome me with the open arms that they did, that meant a lot to me. So it was obviously a lot going on. There was a lot going on for myself and Wiggs, leaving our family, but it didn't work out. But off the court, in our locker room, was always in great spirit, and that's not always the case in the NBA.
Kyle, what did you learn about yourself maybe coming in here mid-season and having to adapt from maybe at first not playing and then being the backup center and even being the point guard at times at the same time? What did you learn about yourself, and what did you enjoy about this season?
Yeah, well, I've never been traded before, so I knew it was something that was going to be tough for me. I didn't know how tough it would be. I salute everyone who's been traded in the NBA before. That's like not easy, and so me going through that, it was something I'd never been through. Being without my family, I haven't seen my son in 5 weeks. I just had to really buckle down and make everything about basketball. Have my family from New Jersey come visit me as much as they can, and mentally it was a challenge, I got to admit. Obviously I'm pissed we lost, but I need to go see my son ASAP. So that's just the space I'm in. But it's something that I'm gonna learn from, definitely. It was my first time ever being traded, so hopefully I'll be ready for it the next time.
The way that Cleveland was guarding Tyler, it's similar to how a lot of defenses will guard Steph, obviously played with. How did you see Steph react to it when he was getting guarded like that, and how do you think Tyler can learn from that?
Yeah, Steph and Ant, I kind of was around to see it. The start of it happening to Ant Edwards too. No one likes it, so it's tough to deal with. Even watch, how Steph graded, how great Steph is. At times, he even struggled with it. Like it's just you got to be able to make the right read every time. I think Ant Edwards is doing a great job of it in the current series he's in, but I think Tyler handled it really well. He got off it at times when he was forced to. The playoffs is a different story, but he handled it really well. He was able to pick his spots. I think me and Davion were able to help him play more off the ball instead of dribbling at 94 feet and trying to figure it out. I think that looked really good on him. And I was actually having a conversation with him where he told me he's worked on that stuff, a lot of off-ball stuff. So that's pretty cool to see it come to light. I think he'll get a lot better as he grows in his career. Thank you, guys.
I mean, can you take us through the frustration of the season, getting sick early, getting hurt in the rotation, out of the rotation, and it went nothing like you probably wanted it to go. What did you take away from all that?
I mean, I think take a lot away. You can learn a lot about yourself. I think it was a extremely humbling experience. Sometimes you get things don't go your way, and sometimes only after do you realize why that had happened to you. So, I'm taking it all, with me in the summer. Just gonna get right back to work. Happy that I got to just spend this time with a great group of guys and enjoy moments off the court as well as on. I think it was just a learning experience for myself and an opportunity to learn and just grow and get better as a basketball player and as a man.
Jaime, despite the regression, do you kind of see that maybe as fuel heading into this offseason? And what exactly do you want to maybe just, improve in your game?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely making it fuel to the fire. Really excited to get into this off season. Was extremely, looking forward to it. Just things that I can work on and things that I can improve on. Sometimes you need that in your life to just, be humbled and get set back to propel you forward. So that's what I take it as, and excited for this off season. Excited to get back to work.
I know it's been a emphasis for you now for the first series of your career, but the 3-point shot, Spo was saying that you came out of training camp shooting it really well. Obviously, the season didn't go maybe the way you envisioned, but what's going to be kind of the work to get that 3-point shot back, on track?
A lot of repetition, a lot of mental work, a lot of film, just understanding where I need to put my hand on the ball, understanding, I guess my cadence of, my shot, and just reps, really. Just reps, staying in the gym, living in it.
By that same token, NBA defenses they can be ruthless, and there were times where they were kind of giving you space and letting you take the shot, sometimes daring you. When that's happening, can it put undue pressure on your jumper? Can it affect your confidence at all when that's happening?
Definitely, I think, depending on how teams play you, sometimes they want you to shoot a shot. They're trying to force you into it. As a competitor, you want to, and then, make or miss. Not always the best thing, but, that's what the work is all about. Just continuing to dive into it. So when that happens again, my confidence will just overtake everything.
I mean, last year you spoke about wanting to work on being a knockdown shooter and a lockdown defender when you were up here. You had more success with your attacks last year in terms of your overall efficiency. Did defenses take something specific away when you were driving to the basket this year when you did have those opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, I think they would just crowd the paint a lot more. Maybe sometimes send two, and as well as sag off on pick and rolls and things like that. So, just learning from that and taking that into the off season and just pouring into the work. Like I said, this was a very humbling year, um, and you can take that and learn from it, or you can take it and get worse. So there's so many things you can do, but I'm taking the approach to just learn, dive into the film, continue to work on my game, and just continue to get better, and come with a different veracity next year.
You've talked repeatedly about, the being a humbling experience. From a mental standpoint, how much do you think is, needed in terms of, I guess, sharpening or just becoming like, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong there, but like overcoming whatever the mental aspect that you face this year and being able to grow from that is important to, your growth as a player?
Yeah, I think what you learn, the mental part of the game is almost more important than the physical, is something that I've learned this year. You have to be mentally sharp at all times and never have any lapses, because the second that happens, teams are taking advantage. So that is one of my biggest lessons this year. So taking that into this off season is something that I'm going to work on extremely hard, and looking forward to learning and just getting better.
Jaime, how are you feeling physically right now? And is that also sort of part of the process of this summer for you, is getting right if you're not 100%?
Yeah, no, I'm 100%. I feel great. Just going to try to continue that throughout the season, take some time off, decompress and focus on what I need to do to get better as a player, as a teammate. And looking forward to the summer, try to connect with some of my teammates throughout the summer, try to work with them, and try to make some changes.
Jaime, a lot of players play better with extended minutes. For you, the splits this year, there was a wide discrepancy between starting and coming off the bench. You shot much better as a starter. Points, rebounds per 36, much better as a starter. Why do you think that was, and what do you need to do to change that if your role moving forward is a bench role?
I guess, more time on the floor, more opportunity to, shoot shots, get rebounds, assists, steals, etc. I think that might be it. And if, coming in next year, that role is limited and on the bench, just understanding how to maximize my time on the floor is something that I think, players can really work on. I know myself, still being in year two, is something that I need to learn how to do, is just maximize my time. And I think that's probably the biggest thing.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Bam, I ask you this every year, what you're going to improve on, and you added the 3 this year, but specifically now, the playoffs always offer lessons to learn from. And from that series, what did you take from as far as your own development going forward?
From that series, really understanding how hard it is to win a playoff game. I think for that team that just was just out there, I feel like is a really valuable lesson, other than the scoreboard, but like to understand that how hard it is to win. I feel like a lot of us take it for granted when we're out there, kind of beating the teams you're supposed to beat, and then you get in the playoffs and it's like it's an even field and you got to really work through it. So I think just valuing winning.
Bam, I would have thought in your first 7 seasons you would have seen it all, but what transpired with the Jimmy situation, the 3 suspensions, not knowing if he's going to be there, not knowing if he's going to try, not knowing if he's going to make the team playing, not knowing if he's going to leave shoot around when not starting, that was a lot. What was it like as a captain and in the locker room to try to get through that and still remain in contention?
That was a lot right there. You don't realize it when you're going through it. I would say trying to get everybody on the same page through the storm. Because like I've said in many times sitting up here, you got to understand that somebody still has to play the game. You still got to go out there and figure out how to win, if guys are in or out. And, obviously keeping that same motivation of trying to win. Like I said before, this organization and this team could have let go of the rope a long time ago. Going through what we went through this season, a lot of people could have just chalked it up and just been like, you know what, we're just gonna start over. And that's one thing I love about this organization, that we're always trying to win, no matter what situation we're in. Like I said before, we went through 2 playing games trying to get in the playoffs on the road, trying to just get to the dance. So I would say it's been an up and down road, and we've figured out how hard it is to win.
Another one on the Jimmy thing. I know obviously you've talked about how it tested you as a captain. How do you feel like Spo handled it, and how much are you guys kind of leaning on each other during that experience as you guys are going through it?
I feel like Spo tried to do his best to make the team focus on the main thing. Obviously there was a lot of noise going around us. There's a lot of things happening, moving fast. Like I said, not knowing who was going to be in the lineup, if they were going to show up today or not. So he did a great job of trying to make it the main thing, which was, like I said, we got to get out here and compete. We can't lose focus because the outside noise is doing what it's supposed to do, being outside noise. And, we just have a regular conversation. You come in there every day and you try your best to keep it positive, because it can turn negative real quick if you let it. So just understanding that not only is the team watching me, they're also watching him. So, I think he did a great job of, like I said, keeping it the main thing.
Bam, you've obviously become a very effective 3-point shooter. If you continue to play alongside Ware, if Ware stays in the lineup as your partner, do you think from a spacing standpoint you need to take a handful a game of threes moving forward?
I wouldn't say a gang full of threes. I would just say keep them honest. Understanding that they are makeable shots for me, understanding that I can't space the floor. But, keeping teams honest is the biggest thing. And then I don't think you should just go and just start jacking 15 threes a game. I don't think that's ideal in my mind.
Bam, you kind of alluded to this, but, through all the ups and downs that you had this season, a lot of the players had some great things to say about how you were as a captain. How do you feel like you handled it? And how were you impressed with how the team came together?
I would say I handle it as professional as possible, and my teammates know that. But also I tried to handle it where, I bank so much equity with every last one of them that I can have personal conversations with them and let them know, some of this we're going through is just because we got to go through it. But them also understanding that we are expected to play and we are expected to win. If we don't win, figure out how we can win. And I feel like they handled that, best way they could. Going out there, diving on the floor every night. Like I said before, this season could have been over a long time ago. But to see guys go through what we went through and not let go of the rope, as a captain, that's, you have the utmost respect for your teammates. Because like I said, anybody could have been like, man, I'm checking out. And they didn't. So, from my standpoint, I appreciate them for holding on.
Bam, you mentioned the other day that you'd expect the team to make some changes and such over the summer, given how the guy with the silver hair operates, as you said. For you as the on-court leader and the team captain and the emotional leader, what gaps would you want to see adjusted or tweaked in order for you guys to restore contention status?
At the end of the day, I want to win. So I can't really go into logistics of the tweaks and everything. I feel like that's more of a Pat Riley question. And I hope you can ask that question to him and he doesn't blow you off and ignore you. But, for me, he knows my mentality. He knows I want to win. We want to be in the best way possible to do that. So, after he talks to you, he'll probably talk to me, and we figure out what happens.
Bam, just kind of you've seen the progression over one season for a guy like Kel'el in his rookie season and playing alongside him, and even going through some rough stretches, like maybe getting taken out early at the last game. Can you just kind of talk about what you saw from him specifically this season?
Man, I seen a kid that, Spo didn't play in the beginning. We was begging him to play because we felt like he was a talent to, at some point he got his chance and he impacted win. So I'm proud of him. Obviously, he's gonna keep developing. He's gonna keep growing. He's gonna keep wanting to be his best version of himself, and we expect him to do that. So, seeing what I've seen outside, not only out on that court but also in the locker room, how he's a great teammate. He's willing to sacrifice for the betterment of the team. I think, like I said before, I think he can be a great player in this league. He can be one of the ones where we'll constantly be talking about every year of, he could be in the contention of DPOY, judging because, y'all have seen it. He'll at some point think a guy got a layup and then it's 4 feet in the stands, 4 rows in the stands. So understanding that he does have a talent and he can showcase it.
Thank you, Bam.
Yep.
Nico, we've always known you to have a lot of self-awareness of your own game, your strengths and weaknesses, and you've been pretty hard on yourself lately. But knowing that, what do you feel like you need to improve? Where are you going forward developmentally? Do you want to improve your game?
I mean, I think I can improve in a lot of things. I think I improved a lot since I came here first. But just in every part, I think consistency is one thing that I really struggle with, even this year. So first being consistent, knowing what my routine is, knowing what I have to do on the floor every night, and after that, I feel like I can do a lot of things on the floor. I never thought I was a player who always knew just to do one thing. I think I'm gonna work on anything, on a lot of things. I'm just gonna work on my game. I think it's what it's all about because I don't know what future's gonna bring me. What situation I'm gonna be in, what coach is gonna want me to do. So just work on whatever they need me to work on, and work on everything that I think I need to work on.
Nico, was there a distinct stretch of the season where at least you felt that you were putting your game together in a place that it was pushing you in the right direction before you had before you broke your hand?
Yeah, I think since New Year, I think since New Year, and then before my injury, I felt like I was pretty consistent, and I kind of found my role coming off the bench and doing something, and then the injury kind of put me back down, and also that's one of the part of consistency. Those injuries, low ones that I have to just avoid somehow, and that's it. But I felt pretty confident. I felt like I could bring a lot of stuff from the bench in the during that stretch. So yeah, that's about it.
Nico, you mentioned the things you want to focus on this offseason, but do you feel your off seasons usually look the same, or when you may be going into a season where there may be more on your plate offensively, is there a different level of preparation heading into that type of season?
It's been different. My first year, I had a summer league. We went to the finals, and I haven't had a lot of room to just work. I had a national team, so I didn't have a lot of time. Last year, I felt like I started off really good until I broke my foot in the middle of the summer. I didn't come back, didn't practice until the Olympics. At the moment, I wasn't even ready for the Olympics. So basically, last 2 summers, I really didn't have no time to work on anything. This summer, I feel like I hope I stay healthy. Everything goes good until the training camp for the national team, which is probably end of July. So I have a solid 3 months, to work on something. What that something will be, I don't know yet. I still have to, connect with the coaches and think about it a little bit. But I feel like this might be the first summer that I actually have some time to, improve my game.
Nico, along those lines, one, did you think about skipping this summer? Did you think about turning down the national team and taking more time?
No. For me, national team is one of the most important things. Of course, it depends what coaches want me to. I always want to play, but if they for some reason insist for me to not play, I'll have a talk. But I feel like they want me to play, and I feel like I always come better when I play, and also it prepares me for the next season. So yeah, I really never have had thoughts about skipping it.
For those of us that have only seen games in Latvia, how would you explain what that tournament is like and what it means in that part of the world?
I mean, it means everything for us. It's as I always say, it means everything for me. That's why I started playing basketball. Because of the national team, and to represent your country, is everything. It's a different feeling. If you feel like you have your whole country behind you and everybody's watching and everybody wants you to succeed, and I feel like I never want to skip anything, and yeah, that's about it. It's gonna be an interesting tournament.
How do you think playing with the national team is going to help your playmaking? Before you got hurt, your playmaking was, the best it had been so far in your career. How do you think getting that opportunity with the national team, where you're obviously going to be more of a scorer and a playmaker for them, is going to help you going into the next season?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like just playing is gonna help. It's especially because those tournaments are almost every game is win or go home, so it feels like a playoffs and in one way. We have a great team. We have some great players that know how to play basketball, and playing around them is gonna be easy. So it's for sure gonna help. For sure gonna help in many ways. I still don't know how the team's gonna look and how everything's gonna look, but I know I can bring something to the team, and like you said, I felt pretty confident playmaking. It's an unusual thing for someone who's 6'10", 6'11" to play make and make plays for the others. But I feel like that's something I can do. Of course, maybe in this series right now I haven't showed it, but during that stretch, like I said, I feel like I was doing something more than just being a spot up shooter at the moment.
Nico, you were one of the guys who was closest to Jimmy, and it was an interesting situation, to say the least, this season. What was it like for you and in the locker room during those 6 weeks when Jimmy was suspended 3 times and you guys still were trying to win? What was that like for the team?
I mean, it was for me, it was weird because I haven't really experienced anything like that before. It was a weird situation. as you guys know, me and Jimmy are, like a brothers, and we really didn't talk a lot about it. It was simple as that. I focus on whatever I need to focus on because whether he's here or he's not, we still had to play and we still had to win, and that's where I felt like our group at one point really kind of connected, and he got what he wanted. He's happy there. He like I said, he got what he wanted, and yeah, we're happy for him. And I think that's about it. It was a weird stretch, and I feel like some of us, especially guys like Tyler and Bam, for sure got better out of it. Because I think they learned, and even I learned that you just have to deal with some stuff, and it was time for them to step up, and I think they did it. For the most of the part of the season, and yeah, that's about it.
Thank you, Nico.
Thank you, guys.
Well, you found your way into quite a few minutes this year for a rookie. And what did this season kind of teach you about as far as a pathway going forward? What is the next step in your development for getting more minutes in that way?
Yeah, I mean, I think going into the season, I had really no expectations. Kind of just went in with a open mindset and got into some good rhythm. Had some injuries, kind of set me back a few times, and trying to regain that rhythm. But I think just doing it, having 1 year under my belt, just kind of helps me calm down a little bit and realize what's more important than other things, and that's what I can focus my work on. So.
Pelle, what can you take away from getting a chance to compete in that play-in tournament and then in the playoff series in your first year?
I think, how much higher of a level the playoffs is compared to regular season. There's no secret. Like the refs is completely different in the playoffs. It's a completely different job for them, and they're looking at different stuff. So I think it changes the game a little bit and makes it for sure way more physical, way more competitive, and it was really, really fun to have that experience.
Do you have any plans to compete in Eurobasket?
Yeah.
So I know there hasn't been much talk, but what's the expectation with Sweden? First time since 2013, I believe. Is it kind of cool to be a part of that team?
Yeah, it's very cool. Last time we were in it, I was a little kid watching it on TV, and we had some, our only other two NBA players that were in it then, and now this year we had two rookies. So it's a little bit similar in that way, but I'm very very excited to kind of see what that team is going to look like and what we can do.
Pelle, AmeriCup and this part of the world doesn't have anything close to Eurobasket, obviously. How do you explain Eurobasket to people in North America that are just unfamiliar with how crazy those couple weeks are?
Yeah, you can't really. I think you guys have gotten a taste of it a little bit with Olympics maybe, and it's kind of similar for us, really, how much pride there is in that tournament, and everyone comes to compete and is really proud to represent their country. So I guess it's similar because we don't get to do that in the Olympics as a country like Sweden. So that is our biggest competition, and that's the most prideful one.
You've obviously shown the skills to be a rotation player. In your mind, to be an every night rotation player, beyond just consistency, what specific things do you need to get better at this summer?
I think shooting is always something that you get better all the time. It never hurts to be a better shooter in this league. So definitely keep working on that. And then being more comfortable with the ball in my hands, making decisions and making plays for others, I think is something that
that we could have been needed more of this year. So just making plays for others and keep defending at a higher level. I kind of got introduced to how it was to defend these top level guys, and I think I've learned a lot from this year.
Thank you, Pelle. Appreciate it.
Tyler, you had a lot of success this year, changing your profile and your approach, but that was like the plan for the first part of the year, and then things changed. What did you learn over the last couple months as far as being the A1 guy on the scouting report every night?
I learned a lot, throughout this whole season. Obviously, still reflecting on some different moments, but I think going in, obviously coming into the season, thinking I was going to be playing a lot off the ball, and that was kind of what I worked on all last summer, just trying to change my game into playing off the ball, being a recipient of other guys' attacks, and I started the season like that. Played obviously really well in that role, and then we made a change as things kind of changed. I started to have the ball in my hands a little bit more, and I thought I did pretty well with that. I learned closing games isn't as easy as some people make it look, and that's my my improvement this summer is how I can figure out ways to help this team win games at the end of games, whether that's making a play for myself or making a play for a teammate, but ultimately just making the right and the overall best play for the team. And I think that's what I'll be working on this summer. A lot of film, a lot of studying the situations that went wrong this year, so that when we're in those situations next year, we can turn those to wins instead of losses.
Tyler, obviously this was a highly unusual situation, and you had that 6-week stretch where Jimmy said he didn't want to be here. Jimmy was suspended 3 times, missed a team flight, left during a shoot-around when told he wasn't starting. As one of the team leaders, we asked Bam this also, what was it like going through and navigating those 6 weeks while you're still trying to win?
Yeah, it was highs and lows, trying to deal with different days, not really knowing what to expect. But ultimately, I think it was just like a overall wondering, like, when is it gonna end? Like, that was kind of the main thing, is when can we just focus on basketball? And that's what this profession is basketball. That's what we're here to do, and that's what we all get paid to do, is play basketball. And at the end of the day, that's what we wanted to worry about. So as you can imagine, not really, some days aren't the best, some days are better than others, but just trying to worry about basketball and focus on that.
And since we have you here, and social media could be confusing, and there was somewhat of a clarification, there was a comment that might have been misconstrued about how not being able to win without Jimmy. I'm not sure that was the context. So can you just sort of, in your words, sort of fill us in on the proper context to what has gone around now for about a week?
Yeah, no, I cleared it up this morning. I think everyone seen that. That's the context, that it was obviously taken out of context. I was asked a question after game 2, I believe, but the question was asked as if it was February or January or December when that stuff was going on. I don't care if we're 0-82, I would never come out and say I need someone else to win. That's just my personality. That's who I am as a competitor. I think I can do it. Obviously with my teammates and my coaching staff, but I would never come out and saying I need somebody to win in this league.
Tyler, going off of the Jimmy question, on the court, how drastically did things change for the team, just style-wise, and having to make that change on the fly in the second half of the season?
Yeah, it was, I think just bringing the new guys in, it was a source of new energy, new life, like a new excitement, having, Davion, Wiggs, and Kyle come aboard, mid-season. Really grateful to play with those guys. I've been a fan of Wiggs my whole life, since his high school days. And obviously, I actually played in the NBPA Top 100 camp with Davion back in high school. And then Slow-Mo, I've been a fan of him as well. So just getting able to play with those guys and then bringing them to the team, it was a new sense of new energy. And, obviously it didn't go how we wanted it to, but I think there's definitely positive to be taken away.
How are you going to look back at these 9 or 10 months? You wanted to be an all-star. There was a little bit of drama with the build-up. You were the last guy announced, obviously, as you remember. Then you go to All-Star Weekend, you win a trophy. Doesn't end obviously the way you want. The last 2 games were disasters. Like, how do you balance the highs and the lows? But when you look back at it all, like, what are you going to grab onto and say, okay, this is what I want to build off?
Yeah. No, I feel like personally the sky's the limit, and I haven't necessarily won how I wanted to win or would love to win in this league. But personally, coming into the season, I actually came in thinking like it was going to be probably my lowest usage rate. I was thinking I was going to average probably least of my career. And I came in and ended up averaging 24, 25, having the best season of my career. But I really do think it was because I just came in thinking I was going to play off the ball. I was letting it come to me. I was letting Jimmy and at the time Terry was starting. I was going to let them kind of just handle, make all the plays. I would be off the ball and kind of, a glue guy a little bit in that starting unit. And it changed quick, and I was able to reap the benefits from it. I was an all-star. I made, the all-star team. I won the three-point contest. A lot of personal, positives that came out from this season, so I can't let the last 2 games define my season, but also understanding that that's not what I want out of this league. Is the personal growth is cool, but also knowing that I want to win and be known as a winner, and we have to do some things this summer to help put us back in that position so we can win.
You've been a good sport and handled like a pro everything. You've dealt with the trade rumors for the 2 summers, starting, coming off the bench, starting on the contract extension, which obviously there's that October 1st to 22nd window. Does it matter to you either way, or under contract 2 more years anyway? Is that a big deal to you whether you get it in October?
Big deal. Not the biggest deal, but I mean, I would love to be here. The front office, the organization, I think the city, everyone knows how much I love Miami. I've been here since I was 18, 19. I got 2 kids here. So this is really home for me, and I love being here. Basketball is why I'm here at the end of the day, and I wanna win, and I know how badly this organization and the city wants to win. So I would love to be here, but we'll see what happens. If it doesn't get done in October, I think we can get it done next summer. Just be a little bit higher of a price. So we'll see.
Last question.
So you were talking about your offensive role heading into the season and how much it changed and everything. I know there's been kind of a back and forth whether the mid-range shot would be kind of a part of like your major parts of your offense. Do you kind of see the way that you're being guarded right now that you almost have to refer back to it now, where the mid-range shot honestly is a good shot for you within the half court?
Yeah, I mean, me and Spo will always go back and forth on it, but I've always, admired and listened to what he thinks my adjustment should be going into the next season. And coming into this season, he obviously wanted me, to kind of play off the ball and figure out different ways to be effective without having the ball in my hands the entire time. So I think with that being said, next season may be something, totally different with how I'm guarded, but I would assume like I'm still, trying to get to the rim as much as possible, shoot as many threes as possible, but also, understanding the way that they're guarding me sometimes, the mid-range shot is the shot to take. But more so context of game, and that, kind of leads back to what I'll be focusing on this summer, is just continuing to try to make the right play, whether it's for myself or for my teammates, and whatever that leads to, the results will hopefully lead to wins, and that's what it, ultimately matters most.
That's it for us, everybody.